What's up everyone, welcome back to the Drive Steady channel. I'm standing next to an E38 generation BMW 740IL, a car that many say is the greatest sedan BMW has ever made. Now the E38 generation 7 series was built between 1994 and 2001, this one being a facelifted 2000 year model. Now the 7 Series has always been the flagship model from BMW, and prior to the SUV craze, it was literally known as the ultimate driving machine. Interestingly enough, you can get the E38 7 Series bulletproofed from the factory. Now that's not really important. The important piece is all the hype that surrounds this car. So in this video, I'm going to tell you about the E38 7 Series and try and figure out if it's as special as everyone says it is. Alright guys, we're going to start off this review with the exterior of the 7 Series first. Now if you're familiar with our channel, you know that we've got a E46 M3, a 2005 model specifically, and in the video that we did for that car, I made a statement about how I think the BMWs from this generation have the best design of all BMWs. It was the pinnacle of design for BMW. And the reason for that is because I think that these BMWs are the evolution of the original design going back from like the 80s. When you look at the 1980s 5 Series or the 1990s 3 Series, those have progressively developed in design and have come to this. Cars like the E38 7 Series, the E46 3 Series, and even the E39 5 Series are absolutely beautiful, extremely timeless, and look at this thing. It's a 20-year-old car, and in my opinion, it still looks absolutely fantastic. Alright guys, the next thing I wanted to talk about are the trim levels in this E38 7 Series. You have the 740i, the 740IL, and finally the monstrous V12 750. Now as I mentioned, this one is a 740IL, and the L in the IL represents the long wheelbase. So with the IL you get 5.5 more inches in length, and guess where those 5.5 inches go? In this rear area of the car. You're going to see once we do the interior portion of the review on how much space there is on the back seat of this car. Now also, as a part of the long wheelbase, the IL is about 30 or 35 pounds heavier than the I version. And touching back onto the design, I want to talk about these wheels, which are probably one of my most favorite things about this 7 Series. These are the wheels that come as a part of the Sport package, which was available, I believe, in 99 or 2000. You got the M logo there, which sets it off beautifully, and it's got a deep dish design which from the side looks absolutely amazing. Now the owner of this car swapped out the original wheels with these M Sport wheels, and these M Sport wheels were a part of the Sport pack, which this car does not have. As a part of the Sport pack, so you see this trimming here, that is actually blacked out in the Sport pack. Same thing goes here. You get a M Sport wheel, M Sport seats, and a sportier suspension, and finally there's a final drive gear ratio that gives you more aggressive gearing for better acceleration. Alright, so now we're on the back of the 7 Series, and I want to talk about the taillights and how these are the ones from the refreshed model. As I said, the refresh happened from 2000, and 2001 obviously carried on over. And look how clean the design here is in the back, and it just looks unequivocally BMW. Look at all the BMWs from this era. They all look fantastic and clean, and look at this one, still stands the test of time. One of the other things to point out about this rear end is notice how there are no exhaust cutouts, there are no tips. And typically exhaust tips, I believe, enhance the look of the vehicle. But in this 7 Series, I actually don't think they're detrimental in any way. It provides to be a very clean, very classical design. The exhaust cutouts come from underneath the car and they're totally disguised. The next thing is the trunk space and how much of it there is, and two really cool things about the trunk. So let's open this thing up. You do that by pushing this button. It electronically pops open. And take a look at how much trunk space there is back here. I've got a bunch of camera boxes, and in addition to that, I've got a car cover, a full-length car cover back there behind this netting, and look at how much extra space I've got. In fact, BMW says that you can fit 4 golf bags in this trunk. And you know how I know that, and you know how they want you to do that? There's a demonstration right here on the side of the trunk, right here, illustration of 4 stowed golf bags. And they show you how they fit. Look how cool and interesting that is. And it's of course of a little 7 Series right there. And I think this is really, really cool. Now, the second interesting thing that I mentioned about the trunk is for people who are more particular and want their car to be clean and free of fingerprints after they wash it. And BMW thought of a very clever design. I actually noticed this in the new AMG GTR that we reviewed recently. And that is this grab handle here. So this allows you to pull the trunk down without touching any of the paint, pull it down, softly close it, and this actually has a soft closing feature as well. Perfect. Closed, no fingerprints. Fantastically done again by BMW design. All right, now we're back at the front of the 740IL, and it's time to talk about what's underneath this hood right here. So let's pop this guy open. And there she is. The 740IL is equipped with a 4.4 liter naturally aspirated V8 engine. And look at the size of this thing. This is a monster looking engine. Now this one is codenamed M62 for all those BMW fans keeping track of the codes. It has 282 horsepower, 325 foot-pounds of torque, and let me tell you, this thing purrs like a cat. A little bit more information, the M62 went through several iterations throughout its life cycle. This one is the M62 TUB46, which increased in torque in the year 2000. So the sport version of this engine is the S62, which went in the fantastic and very popular E39 M5. In addition to that, interestingly, this same engine was used in the Range Rover from 2002 through 2005. Performance on this car, 0 to 60 was clocked in at 6 seconds, and if you got the sport package with those aggressive gear ratios, it went down to 5.9. Miles per gallon, 15 in the city, 22 on the highway for a combined average of 18, which is not so bad considering the displacement of this engine, 4.4 liters. Next, this car is equipped with a 5-speed automatic transmission made by ZF. Yes, this is the same company that currently makes the BMW ZF 8-speed transmission, which is fantastic. And the 5-speed in this one is very good for the time and the era that it was built in. All right, now we're on the inside of the 740IL, and I must say that this is an extraordinary space. Just looking at the design, you can tell that whoever did put this thing together really thought it through. Even when you look at it, 20 years ago, this was a new car, and looking at it today, it still looks timeless. Maybe getting past some of the resolution of the screen in the navigation area, this thing would fit in today. So let's talk about this interior a little bit. And the first thing I want to start off with are these doors. Now, the reason I'm starting with these doors is I was extremely surprised that all 4 windows are one touch up and down. Next, look at all this storage space you have in the door pockets. This is huge. This is a humongous space here. In addition to that, I've got an extra pocket here, which is more than enough to fit 2 sunglass cases right in there. Moving beyond that, you come up to the steering wheel. Now remember, this is not a sport package steering wheel. Here's a picture of what the sport package one looks like. This one is the regular 740IL steering wheel. And the nice thing about this is it's got multi-function buttons here. This is for your radio, for your music track. This is for, I believe this is for radio or telephone, and I will get to that here in a second. This is a telephone button. Cruise control, regular, turn them on and off, and I believe, I'm not sure exactly what this one is. Maybe you guys can comment down below on what that is. Maybe it has to do with the climate controls. But the steering wheel is very nice. BMW is known for making nice steering wheels. It's very comfortable in the hand. It's not thick like you would expect in a M car, but again, very comfortable, nice diameter, nice size. The surprising thing I noticed about it is that it's electronically controlled. Many cars, even today, do not have the ability to make electronic adjustments to the steering wheel. Next, moving on to the gauges, and these are the classic BMW 4-pod cluster gauges here. You got the gas, speed, tach, and the water temperature. In addition to that, you've also got this trip computer that gives you your gas, your speed limit if you had one set, the distance that you've actually driven, and the arrival time if you're using the navigation, your average speed, the date, all this cool stuff that I wasn't really expecting in a 20-year-old car. But nonetheless, the 7 Series was the flagship model, and it got all the technology that was available during the time. And of course, how can I forget about the classic miles per gallon gauge? That thing brought back so many memories. As a child, I remember sitting in a E36 BMW and seeing that thing and asking the owner, what the heck is that? And getting the explanation of the miles per gallon, which wasn't as relevant as it is today. Now you've got a very high consciousness of fuel efficiency and miles per gallon, but I couldn't believe I had forgotten that that thing is iconic BMW. Moving along to the rest of the interior, you've got a full sunroof here, and the whole thing obviously opens up, tilts, so very traditional there. And you've got a garage door opener, which is really cool and very handy. You don't have to carry around a bunch of clicking things with you. Next, you've got the infotainment and the radio area, which was one of the biggest surprises for me when I started experiencing this car. This car is equipped with satellite navigation, and in fact, this is the first European car to be equipped with satellite navigation. In the year 2000, I remember this was such a humongous deal to have navigation in your car. They were about $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 depending on brand and make, but this car has it. It's not as sophisticated as what you have today, but it's surprisingly easy to use. I'm going to hit the accept. You've got several options here: onboard computer, DSP, and now let's go back. And you've got the GPS navigation here, so I'm going to click this, and of course, due to the age of this car, there's some issue with the screen, but the navigation works, and you type in your city, your street, your intersection. You even have the ability to use these map controls to set a destination, and you can see where we are now. And I have the ability to pick on the cursor, move up, and then move east or west, north and south, and pick my cross location here. Hopefully that's coming through in the screen. It'll ask me to save, and then it will automatically show where I am or where my cross section was, and the navigation will just guide just like it does in today's more sophisticated navigation systems. Moving along, this thing is actually really cool in the sense that it does have a split screen function, just like this. So down here is your trip computer, and up here is your radio, so really nice there. In addition to that, you've got the typical BMW classic design of the climate controls. You've got cup holders here, not many of them from what I've seen, only 2 in this car. This shifter and the center section is so elegant, so cleanly done. My favorite part is this wooden shift knob, which is all wood around. It feels fantastic in the hand. Straight, just regular motion, drive, neutral, reverse, park, hazard lights. And the next highlight of this interior is is the telephone. This thing pops out. It even comes out to you so you can lift it out. Obviously it is not connected, but you do have the ability to. Of course, BMW branded phone. Man, this thing really took me back, and it was actually really cool to see something like this. And then once you're done, you put it back in. It's somewhat of a soft close, so that looks that way, and you're done. And another interesting thing while talking about this midsection here, you do not have storage area underneath here. So this thing does not open up this way. It actually just moves forward like this. But what you do have are individual compartments here, one for the driver and one for the passenger. You click them open this way. You do sacrifice some space here, but like I said, you've got more than enough on this side. So you've got a small amount of storage space here, and same goes for the passenger. But I guess that's what you're gonna sacrifice if you want the luxury of having a phone in your car in the year 2000. Okay, so now we're in the back of the 740IL, and this is where that long wheelbase gets highlighted. Remember, 5.5 inches of extra space, and you can see how much extra space there is between my knees and the front seats. Now I'm sitting in front of me very comfortably, and look at this. This is huge. I was so surprised on how much room and how much luxury there is back here. Now, being an owner of a newer model 7 Series, I can tell you that this feels equivalent to one of the newer 7 Series. And touching on the luxury, you've got these footrests here which allow you to rest your feet more comfortably. In addition to that, the seats actually feel more cushiony, for the lack of a better term, than the front seats do. I'm not sure exactly if that's by design, but that's how I'm feeling it right now. Separately, there's a lot of storage space back here, much like the front. Got your cigarette ashtray here, which most people are not going to use nowadays, but were probably very popular back then. I've got an extra compartment here, which I could probably put sunglasses or some type of documentation. And in addition to that, I've got a very large cubby here, which is substantial. A lot of stuff can fit back here. And of course, the seat backs on this side. Touching back onto the luxury, I've got a sunshade here, which is manually operated. Today they're electronically operated. I've also got one here as well, and the one in the back, which is operated from the front. Next, I've got the cup holders, which are here. These are not the best design for cup holders, but it's better than nothing. And in addition to that, I've also got this guy here, which is very, very comfortable, nice feeling, and the additional storage space right there. So as a rear passenger, you are very comfortable, you are very cushiony, you have a lot of space to put your things. The last piece, which I found to be the most interesting, is how the seat belts are operated. Now, typically, you reach over your left shoulder and you pull the seat belt down and you strap it in this way. But in this 7 Series, it's the opposite direction. You pull it over from your right shoulder here and you strap it in on the left side. Now, I'm not sure exactly why this is designed this way, but if anybody out there knows, please send us a comment down below. All right, so now we're gonna do the driving portion of the review. And immediately I can tell you that this is an extremely comfortable place to be. The driving position is great. In the E46 video I made, I was talking about how great the visibility is in that car. It carries over into this car as well. Even though I have a long hood and this is a rather large car, the hood does not impede my vision in any way. I have great visibility outside my mirrors, my rear view mirror, out back over my shoulders. So no worries there. Fantastic visibility all around. All right, so setting off in the 7 Series. The first thing I would like to talk about is the seat. Of course, this is a luxury vehicle and it's all about comfort. The seats are cushiony, but as I mentioned when I was sitting in the back, they're not as cushiony as they are in the back. They are, however, still extremely comfortable. One of the things I was very surprised about is the adjustability in these seats. 13-way adjustable seats in this 7 Series from 20 years ago. It's unreal how adjustable these seats really are. You've got the forward, backwards, the top part of the shoulders, and everything is adjustable. I would be extremely surprised if anybody of any body size and structure would have a difficult time getting comfortable in this car. Now, moving on to the driving feel. Let's start off with the engine. As I said, 282 horsepower, but more importantly, over 300 foot-pounds of torque, 325 to be exact. And you can feel it because this is a heavy car, about 4,300 pounds, but once it takes off, that 300 foot-pounds of torque, you can feel it down low, pulling the car very nicely. It's silky smooth. The 8-cylinder, this M62, fantastic engine, almost perfect for this car. The next thing is the steering feel, and this is where you realize that you're driving a car from 20 years ago, and I don't mean that in a bad way. So allow me to explain. Cars from today's day and age are electronically assisted. The power steering rack and all of that is basically electronic. Some of them are even by wire, and it feels very artificial. This car, let me turn the AC on, and by the way, the AC still works fantastic in this car. This car has a hydraulic steering rack and hydraulic steering. So even though it's very comfortable and still lofty, you're not losing any type of feel in the communication in the steering wheel. I turn the wheel, I'm driving on uneven pavement, it feels very natural. Everything is coming to me, communicating with me as I'm driving. The suspension is no different. There is no magnetic shocks here, there is no adjustability. It's just one spring rate, one shock, no adjustments, and everything communicates to you. And it's amazing how a BMW and most of the manufacturers from this day and age or from this era were able to build in comfort in without having much of these adjustments or much of these extra technology. So how does it feel as a whole, as a car, all of the pieces working together? And I'm going to tie this into the question we asked earlier in the opening of the video, and that is this a special car? And if you ask for my opinion, absolutely. Because this being a 20-year-old car, if you mask some of the things, like I said, the screen resolution and some of the wear and tear, you can probably sell this car brand new from a dealer lot, and as long as the paint quality and all that stuff is good, you are not missing out on anything. This 7 Series delivers a very lofty, old school type of communicating driving experience, and for the price point, these can be had in the close to $10,000, maybe $15,000 range, much cheaper than a $100,000 7 Series that you walk into a dealership today, and you probably get about 75 to 80% of the experience in this car than you would in a new 7 Series. So that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Until next time, drive steady.